Hey everyone, it's Stephanie here, and today's video shares a card that I've created with Sweet Stamp Shop stamps. That's a little bit of a mouthful. The card that I'm creating is using the Hedgehog Kiss stamp set, and it's this stamp set that you see here. And I really love the cute images that come in the set. I like that you get two hedgehogs and that they kind of face each other. And I really love the word bubble that comes with it because it has the little pointy piece indicating who's speaking on both sides of it, so it looks like it's kind of coming from both of them. So I just thought that was a cute idea for a stamp. So to start my card, I'm going to just go ahead and stamp these images onto a piece of Neenah Solar White cardstock. I'm just using Memento Tuxedo Black ink because I'm going to be coloring with Copic markers, and this is an ink that you want to use when coloring with Copics because it doesn't bleed or have any of the color blend together. So it's just the perfect ink to use for any kind of Copic coloring. So I'm just going ahead and stamping that. I didn't like the impression I was getting with that first one there, so I just stamped it a few times. And then I'm going to go ahead and also stamp the accessory pieces that I'm going to add to the hedgehogs once I have them completely colored. So I just went ahead and did all the stamping first, and now I'm going to get my Copic markers and start to color my images. So for the hedgehogs, I've only ever seen a hedgehog, I think maybe twice in real life, so I was kind of going off of what I kind of know they look like, but I wasn't 100% sure. So to kind of get the coloring somewhat similar to an actual hedgehog, I just looked online at some hedgehog images to see kind of what they looked like and just kind of the different coloring and shading that they had. And then once I kind of looked at a few different pictures, I just kind of picked some brown colors that I thought went well and just did some coloring. And I just kind of colored until I thought they looked somewhat normal and somewhat accurate as a hedgehog. They're pretty straightforward to color. The bodies are just like a tan color, so I did some light tans and then just a little bit of darker up under the fur or hair or whatever you would even call that on a hedgehog. And then for the actual top part there, I just went ahead and started with a lighter color and then added some darker colors in for some shading. And then I also added the darker colors in a flicking motion just to kind of indicate the hair pattern that a hedgehog actually has. So I just kind of took my time and just flicked some color in. I went from dark to medium and then to light and then just kind of kept going back and forth until I had them kind of how I wanted them. I found that the brown didn't fully give me the look I was going for. So I ended up taking a gray marker and adding a little bit of gray flicks into it as well. And that just really helped to add some dimension to the hedgehog and just add some of that extra coloring that I wasn't quite getting and making the hair part of him stand out even more, which is exactly what I was trying to do. So once I finished the first one there, I just went ahead and did the same thing to the second one. And now you can see I'm just doing the same flicking motion with the brown colors. And then I'm going to also go in with that darker gray color and do the same thing with the second one as well. And then once I have them completely how I want them, I'm going to go ahead and color the accessory pieces that I'm going to add to the hedgehogs once they're finished. So I'm just coloring the top hat and the bow tie and the heart with some gray colors and then also some reds. And I'm not being careful to stay in the lines at all just because I know I'm going to cut these out with my scissors. So I'm going to stay right along the ink line on these images. So it doesn't matter if I have a little bit of extra ink coming out the sides because it's all going to be cut off anyway. So I'm just going ahead and adding a little bit of shading. These images are pretty small, so you don't really have to shade too much. But I wanted to add a little bit just to give a little bit more dimension in these little accessory pieces. And then once I have everything colored, I'm just going to go ahead, like I said, and cut all these images out. And I'm going to cut them directly on the ink line so that there's no white border and that it's fully just the black edge of the stamped image that is the outside of the pieces once I'm finished cutting them out. And then once I have them all cut out, I'm going to create a scene for my card. So I have everything cut out there, and I've went ahead and picked some dies from my die collection that I think will work well to create the scene that I'm kind of envisioning. So I'm going to cut out a stitch rectangle to start my scene, and that is just cut out of a piece of white Neenah Solar White cardstock once again. And I cut it out of that because I knew I wanted to do a little bit of ink blending to create the sky part of my card. So I know that this paper works very well for any kind of ink blending, so that's why I chose to use that. So I'm just using some Tumbled Glass Distress ink and an ink blending tool and adding some color around the edge area of this piece. I don't want it to be super blue, I just want it to be enough that it's kind of tinted darker on the outside and then kind of went lighter onto the inside. Enough to depict that it's definitely a sky, but I didn't want it to be overpowering behind the images once I had everything assembled. So now that I have the sky piece there, you can see I also die cut some grass. I just used some pattern paper with some subtle tone-on-tone design, and I cut them out using a grass border die, I believe from Lawn Fawn. And then I'm just going to go ahead and adhere these onto the card front. So I cut two, one slightly taller than the other, and then one a little bit shorter. And what this is going to do is just allow me to kind of tuck the hedgehogs inside of the two pieces to make it look like they're standing inside the grass. It just makes it look a little bit more realistic rather than having them completely on top of the grass with none of the grass pieces around them. So I'm just going to go ahead and work on the pieces here. I also have this quote bubble that I stamped in already cut out. I did not get the stamping on camera, but I just went ahead and stamped it on white cardstock and then stamped the sentiment on the inside as well and then cut it out with my scissors. I did leave a slight white border around that piece just because I thought it kind of went with the speech bubble. So now I'm just adding all the pieces on with adhesive. So I went ahead and put the bow into the girl's hair, and then I'm also adding the top hat onto the boy. And then once I have those added, I can go ahead and continue to add the rest of the pieces of the scene, which are going to be the clouds. For those, I have two that I adhere directly to the card piece, and then I'm adding a third one with some foam adhesive just for some added dimension. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere the speech bubble with some foam tape too, just so that kind of pops up. And I just thought it was cute to have the kaboom and then have the two pieces pointing to each of the hedgehogs and then having these little hearts that I've stamped. I originally only stamped one of these hearts. I thought I was just going to use one, but I decided to go ahead and do three of them and kind of have them floating up in between the hedgehogs and then up into the clouds. So I thought it just worked perfect for the scene. And now that I have the whole scene created, I'm going to go ahead and work on the card base and all the matte pieces that I'm using. So I just put the scene piece directly onto a piece of black cardstock and just cut it slightly larger. I just wanted a tiny, tiny border just to make it stand out against the background piece that I'm creating here. And this is just a gray card base with a white piece of cardstock on top of that, and then a piece of vellum that I'm sandwiching in between. This just tones down the white, and makes it a little bit more muted behind the scene piece that we're going to add on here now. So I've just went ahead and added foam adhesive to this piece, and I'm adhering that directly onto the card base with the foam adhesive. And this is a top folding standard 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card. And then to finish off the card, I decided that I wanted to have a little bit of glossy accents on all of the heart pieces as well as the bow in the girl's hair. And I also added it to the little red band on the boy's hat. And before I added the glossy accents, I did use my Wink of Stella clear glitter marker and added some glitter to the hearts as well. So they have a nice little shimmer to them that's hard to pick up on camera but looks really great in real life. And then once I have all the glossy accents, the card is complete. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time in my next card video. Thanks so much for watching.